I've been growth hacking. I've been scheming a little bit. I've held it to save it for right now, for when we could hit the big record red button. You ready? I found a website that's really, really interesting, and I want to monetize it somehow, but I'm coming up short. What is the big social media platform that is now publicly traded, that is full of toxicity, that people don't really take very seriously? This is just such a perfect example of how the distribution idea can make the business idea 1,000 times better. I think programmatic SEO would be the most brilliant way to build that business. What is the big social media platform that is now publicly traded, that is full of toxicity, that people don't really take very seriously, with an orange logo?
Oh, Trump Media?
Reddit.
Oh, dude, Reddit is so freaking toxic.
It's so toxic.
Honestly, and this surprised me, Reddit, most toxic. You know what? Second?
Threads.
Threads is the freaking worst.
It's the worst.
I thought it was Twitter. It's not Twitter. It's Threads. There's some angry cat moms over there.
That's true. And don't mess with cats.
Okay. All right. Reddit. Go.
Anyway, so I've got all these platforms where I publish my content. And I've got like I call it a EO strategy. Everything everywhere all at once. Okay.
It's true.
So if I put out a banger tweet, I want that repurposed everywhere. Okay, but I'm not putting on Reddit because Reddit's different, right? You got to put it in subreddits. And if you do, people are going to downvote you. They're going to call you stupid, and it hurts my feelings. Okay.
It genuinely does.
Yeah. And so I was thinking, I was like, all right, you can't really grow a Reddit account. I have an aged Reddit account. I have 40 Reddit gold, which is a lot. And the algorithm likes me when I post to Reddit because I have so much karma. But you don't really grow Reddit accounts. You can follow a Reddit account, but people don't really do that, right? You follow subreddits. You grow subreddits, right? You with me?
Right. Yeah, totally. It's a different dynamic, right? Like other social platforms, it's about the person. And on Reddit, it's about the topic.
Exactly. And so I've posted in the Entrepreneurship subreddit, the Side Hustle subreddit, a bunch of times, and they've done well. But this doesn't really get you anything. It can't even really get you clicks because as soon as you add a link, they'll delete your post most times, unless you find some sneaky ways around it, which is another podcast for another day. So I thought, I need my own subreddit. And this just needs to be a place where I just publish my content. And I'm the judge and the jury and the executioner, and I control what goes in and what comes out. And I can put in whatever links I want, right?
Yeah.
So then I start going down this rabbit hole, and it's like, well, how do you create, like, okay, anyone can create a subreddit. How do you grow it? Because you just post in there, it's just you. It doesn't go anywhere unless people start cross-posting it. You have to already have members. It's a big catch-22. Then those members have to share it either externally to other platforms where people see it and then they happen to join your subreddit, or you can cross-post it to other subreddits, which is tricky because many subreddits, if not most of them, don't even allow cross-posting. So what I would do in this case, I would take my long tweet about how to start a tree trimming business. I would post it in my subreddit, and then I would go cross-post it to the home service subreddit, the sweaty starter subreddit, yada, 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 all the tangential subreddits. But even if a subreddit does allow for cross-posting, the cross-posts don't do as well. It's like retweeting. A retweet doesn't do nearly as well as the original tweet, right?
Yeah.
And I know this for a fact because I've posted the same thing originally in a subreddit and then cross-posted to another subreddit, and it gets 2% of the views. I had to get creative. And what do we do when we have constraints, Nick? We get creative.
Yes.
Okay. So I created a subreddit called Biz Ideas, B-I-Z Ideas, one word. There's already a business ideas. There's already a business _ ideas. And so this isn't anything new, but that's something I talk about a lot. So I created Biz Ideas, one person in there, me. I'm the only moderator, only person. So then I start repurposing a bunch of my old Twitter content and I start cross-posting it, and it does okay. And I get, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 people to join my subreddit, which is cool, especially because they don't know who I am. They just like the content and they joined. Mm-hmm. But you've got kind of a low ceiling on that. So I think, okay, how can I get AI involved? How can I get Zapier involved? Okay. So here's where it gets interesting. Okay. You ready?
Chris.
What's up?
You had my interest, but now you have my attention.
No, you don't have my interest, but now you have my respect. All right. So There are limits with Reddit's API. They don't want the API permissions to be able to post comments. So that has to be done manually. But it will read comments. And you can use AI to respond to comments. You just can't post them unless you do it manually. So here's what I did. I went to Zapier and I had it search for every time something was posted in any subreddit worldwide with the word idea in the title. Not business idea, but just idea. Okay?
Okay.
And then I had it filter out all of the posts that were media only, because AI can't understand that in the way that I want it to, right? Because some people say, wow, this looks like a bad idea. And then they put in a video of something crazy happening. That doesn't apply. And so if there's only media, filter it out. If it was posted, the filter says, if it was posted in the last 30 minutes and it already has at least 4 upvotes, then, which only applies about 10% of the time, write a comment that says this, what an interesting idea. But you know what? Any good idea could be a good business idea. Here's how I'd turn this into a business. And then AI comes up with whatever, right? Sometimes it's pretty smart, sometimes it's not. And then at the end of it, there's a line break and it says, TBH, all lowercase. I have it put in misspellings. I have it do all lowercase. It really doesn't look like AI. It really doesn't. Okay. And then the last sentence is like, TBH, this post is probably a better fit for r/biz ideas, which is a direct hyperlink to my subreddit.
Yeah.
Okay. So instead of controlling the posts, I'm in the comments and I'm only piggybacking on posts that are growing in popularity really quickly. I'm filtering out everything else. And so tens or hundreds of times a day, I'm posting comments in all these random subreddits with the smart sounding business idea linking back to my subreddit.
Is it working?
Yeah, it's working. I've got like 200 and something members in there, and I've only posted like 9 comments.
All right. Here's my question. I love it. Like, for what? Like, why are you growing a subreddit? You're a dictator who's like, I only want kind words around me.
No.
Speak if it's flattery.
No, if that were the case, I wouldn't post on Threads or really anywhere. Because here's the thing. You get someone to join your subreddit, you can send them a welcome message with as many hyperlinks as you want. Here's my newsletter. Here's XYZ. That ends up in their inbox. So that's cool. Second of all, I can pin any post I want. I can highlight it. I can pin it. I can post all of my content with as many links as I want. And like the algorithm doesn't mind. Like the only people that mind on Reddit that these things happen are the moderators. And I'm the only moderator. And so I get a bunch of strangers in there that have no idea who I am. Hopefully thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. And then I can just start repurposing all of my content with links to my newsletter and it's just another channel.
All right, now's the part of the show where I feel the most uncomfortable, but my therapist says I need to face my fears. So here we are. I've started a newsletter and I want you to subscribe. And what you're going to get every single week are the aggregated conversations from that week that I have on this podcast with an overview of what their business actually looks like. I'm also going to throw in a review of 1 or 2 businesses that are listed for sale. I'll give you my opinion on whether or not the EBITDA multiple is good, or there's customer concentration, or there's red flags or green flags. And then lastly, I'm going to give you one piece of actionable advice every single week on how to buy your first business. So click the link below, subscribe to my newsletter, and let's get back into the show.
My question was misunderstood. I get why you're doing it, right? Like, hey, we're trying to grow an audience, social media. But like, if I'm just listening, I'm an entrepreneur. Like, okay, cool. You told me a growth hack to grow Reddit. Like, what does that do? What does that do for a just typical entrepreneur?
Give me an example of someone that just owns like a regular business and I'll apply it to that.
Let's say somebody who has a digital marketing agency.
Perfect example. You softballed me. Love it.
I didn't even mean to.
All right. So let's say I could set up a Zapier. I could create a subreddit called, we're not just going to do digital marketing. We're going to go more niche than that. We're going to say
Google Business Profile.
Google Business Profile Agencies, GBP agency, r/GBP agency. Okay. Owners or whatever. And then I'm going to set up a Zap that searches for anything that says SEO, SEM, marketing, email marketing. I'm going to go niche. I'm going to go broad, all along the marketing spectrum, content marketing, anything. Doesn't take very long to set up all these triggers. And then I'm gonna use OpenAI's API to say, to basically take a post about anything marketing and apply it to Google Business Profile, right? So I'll say, somehow take this post and say, you know what, like, yeah, SEO is great, but most people that have digital marketing agencies don't have a physical presence, so they don't think that Google Business Profile is relevant to them, but it actually is. Here's why. Here's the 3 reasons why it's relevant. And it's like, honestly, like, I learned this from r/GBP agency owners, right? And so you could just leave comments there everywhere. Maybe it's not owners, but it's like business owners, where it depends. Do you want to sell something to agency owners, or do you want to sell your services to business owners, your GBP?
This strategy would be geared towards somebody who already believes in the power of social media to essentially market or identify customers. And it's just another channel for them to go out and find people who are interested in their services.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah. It's an untapped marketing channel.
What people don't know, I don't know how much we've talked about this, but like one of the things that I've always admired about you is your ability to leverage underutilized marketing channels. Reddit is one of those. So you've been writing on Reddit for years, and you really cut your teeth on Reddit. Nick Huber was the same way, right? Like, he started writing on Reddit and then it translated really well to social media. Huber's terrible on camera. You are not. So I think you have a much higher ceiling than he does. But like, your ability to write copy is incredibly important in growing businesses. So while Reddit sucks, I do think it's a really good testing ground for ideas to go out and test. And we've launched several businesses, tested several ideas, gotten lots of leads off of Reddit in non-traditional ways. This feels like a much more scalable way to get leads off of Reddit. Whereas in the past, like you're saying, you had, not only did you have to find a subreddit that was perfect for that type of business, you then had to write a post that went viral. Whereas if you own the subreddit, you can control the information, and people are coming, like, you're attracting the right type of people, and your content will play even better.
It's true. Did you know that the Sweaty Startup subreddit has like over 200,000 people in it? And it's owned by Huber. Yeah. It's like a really popular one. Yeah.
That makes sense. He figured this out years ago.
Yeah, but he doesn't really use it much. And maybe that's for a reason that I haven't learned yet.
Yeah.
Right. Couple cool things. So I posted my tree business long form thread from a year ago in the business_ideas subreddit, which has a couple 100,000 people in it.
Okay.
And it did really well. It got 600,000 views. But early on, one of the commenters was like, "You're just ripping off Chris Koerner. You're just copy pasting Chris Koerner." And my name on Reddit is not my name. It's an anonymous name. So I was like, and so they deleted it. And I was like, guys, I am him. Like, I promise, like, I'll verify it any way you want. And then the moderator, luckily, like the main moderator, was like, "Oh, you are, oh my gosh, Chris Koerner is in our subreddit." So he made it live again. And then I DM'd him and I thanked him. And I was like, "Hey, I'd really love to start syndicating my content in here, but you don't allow links. Like, can we work out a deal?" Because like thousands of people shared this post in other subreddits, which grew your channel. And theoretically, thousands of people could click, which would grow my channel. Like, is there some symbiotic relationship we could work out here? And he was like, "Hey, I'll tell you what, you can post whatever you want in here once a week with a link to whatever you want, and we won't delete it." So I was like, first of all, that's awesome. Second of all, what a cool model. It's like a radio syndication, right? It's like a you scratch my back, I scratch yours. We each kind of grow each other. But I don't know of anyone really doing that on Reddit. So that's something else.
I love these ideas, like to take it political. If you look at the last election that we just had, the Democrats spent something like, they had like $1 billion that they could spend on President Harris's election campaign. And they ended up going $20 million in debt. So they not only spent the billion, but they went into debt. I want to say the Trump team spent like somewhere in the ballpark of like $300 million. But the Harris campaign spent on traditional media. They had Beyonce come out. They had celebrities come out. They went on all the shows. They bought advertising. Like it's almost like the difference between a well-funded startup and a scrappy startup. You know what I mean? Like they
have constraints. They got to get creative.
Right. And so Trump, and he did this in the first 2 times that he ran, he has a lot of earned media because he's just a personality. So if he goes on anything, people are going to tune into it. But he did the podcast circuit. And she did call her daddy, but it didn't really get good ratings. But he did Joe Rogan. He did, I can't remember the name of the other comedian who has a show. But he did these shows, and he reached the audience that ended up kind of getting him the election, which were young men. Like that kind of swung.
Yeah.
That was a big difference maker. And I'm not like making a judgment on
Right.
one way or the other, but I've now been listening to political commentary that are like, the next election, like this election was decided by podcasts, and you're going to see a massive shift in spending in podcasts, in non-traditional media, because traditional media is not reaching people in the same ways that it used to. So this to me is an example of going to Reddit and finding a way to reach people that is creative, that will probably, there will be an arbitrage here, right? Like if you can move in early, you're going to see an outsized return on that.
It was JD Vance was on Theo Vaughn's podcast. I think that's what you were
Well, I
talking
know
about.
JD Vance was on Theo Vaughn's podcast, but then Trump went on, I can't remember his name. He's the guy with dark hair, has a mustache.
I don't know.
Anyways, he's a comedian as well. But
Well, and then, I mean, then Rogan endorsed him the night before the election. That doesn't hurt. Did you see that?
no, it doesn't. That doesn't hurt at all. The weird thing is that like Kamala Harris wouldn't go to Joe Rogan, right? And
Yeah.
like
Right.
again,
Maybe out of pride or?
I think it was a little bit of pride, but like Trump did. Trump went and kissed the ring, and he reached the audience that he needed to reach in order to win the election. My personal opinion is Kamala is not great in those interview styles, right?
Mhm.
She doesn't have good interviews. Trump does. Like Trump is charismatic and you like him, whereas Kamala isn't that. And that's what's interesting about presidential elections. It seems like the candidate who's best on camera wins.
Every time. The
Every time.
charismatic. The guy with the Riz. You got to
Yeah.
have Riz.
Like Joe Biden beat Trump, but that was just because there was a huge like that would be the only case in the last 30
Right.
years that I would say
It's an outlier.
it doesn't work. But actually there's one more. So Reagan, way better on camera. JFK, when he won, way better on camera. But Reagan, better on camera. Then you have George H.W. Bush, not better on camera, but he's kind of a continuation of Ronald Reagan. Bill Clinton, better on camera. George W. Bush versus Al Gore. I mean, come on, way better on camera. Versus John Kerry, way better on camera. Barack Obama versus John McCain, way better on camera. Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, way better on camera. So it's like, if you're more charismatic, you're going to win the presidency. I don't know that that's the best way to elect the president. You know what I mean? But I think he knew that. And it's the same with marketing. If you can figure out a way to reach people that aren't being reached by traditional media, there's an arbitrage there that you can play. And this Reddit idea is perfect for that.
And I think why the Reddit idea works is because, back to politics, generally speaking, the moderators of these subreddits lean very left, right? Which you could argue is very anti-capitalist. Therefore, like no links in here, no promotion in here, nothing. So if you can find a way to be the moderator of your own little kingdom and put as many links in there as you want, you could still capture the audience that is hundreds of millions of daily active users without having to have links be suppressed.
I think it's a freaking great idea. Look at the top 10 media podcasts, news media podcasts. 8 of the top 10 are conservative. 2 of the top 10 are liberal. And like they're both by the same woman, Kara Swisher. On with Kara Swisher and Pivot. The rest are Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin and Charlie Kirk and all these other guys. But it's because traditional media has like left this hole where, you know, those conservatives don't feel like they're being spoken to. So they've got to go and create their own media platforms. It's probably going to be the same way in Reddit, right? Like you have all of these subreddits that are just so tightly controlled by people that if you get somebody like you or Huber and you create your own subreddit, it's going to be popular just because of the novelty. Like it's just different. It's swimming in a different direction. So I like that idea.
Dude, one more idea to grow a subreddit that anyone could use. You ready?
Okay.
So it's pretty common for people to launch podcasts, just interview podcasts, right? And it's not too difficult to find people to interview that are like have a bigger presence than you, right? There are a lot of like big name people on podcasts that you've never heard of. Okay.
Yeah.
Another way to grow a subreddit is to kind of take the same angle, but find those people to do AMAs, ask me anything, inside your brand new subreddit. So like to grow my subreddit, I'm going to do an AMA one day. I'm going to push it out to all of my channels and I'm going to host it in my subreddit. So you go in there and like you don't have to join to participate, but you probably will. Or I could make the permissions in the subreddit to, if you comment, you have to be a member of the subreddit. So technically you can. Does that make sense?
Dude, yeah, it makes sense. That would be an interesting way to grow our podcast. Think about growing, like having like a Nikonomics subreddit or the Koerner office subreddit, and we post every episode, and that's just the forum where people can go and comment on it, right? And they have interactions like, oh, I didn't like this, I like that. And then you set up, like you're doing with Zapier. I had Zach Prince on. It's like, all right, every post on Reddit that mentions Zach Prince, whatever. You got to set up an if-then statement. But we have a comment and it points us back to his interview.
That's a good idea.
Nikonomics, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then they subscribe, they listen, and you're getting a community of people. The flip side is it can get really toxic really quick. Now, if you control the subreddit, then you can kick people out, but that would be that potentially could be an exceptional growth hack for podcasting. Anyways, the problem with Reddit is you've spent so many years on Reddit. So it's like, you got to catch people up to help them understand why it's a good idea. So if you had to do that preamble. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Chris, I got some cool ideas. Do you want to listen to Silver Tsunami idea, Business in a Box idea, CPA idea?
Business in a Box.
Okay. So that's funny. I should have known you were going to do that. I know that this already exists. Okay. But hear me out. I think there needs to be a DIY service for side hustlers. And you started businesses. I've started businesses. You've started way more businesses than I've started from scratch. It's a freaking nightmare to get your books cleaned up. It's a freaking nightmare to know where you are relative to where you thought you would be. What's your revenue? What's your cost per unit? What are your gross margins? Like, you don't know any of that stuff early on. You're just going and you're trying to look for little signals so that you know whether or not you're moving in the right direction. But it's hard to get those KPIs. And even if you wanted to start getting those KPIs, it's like, all right, I need a CRM, but do I need HubSpot? Like, do I need to pay, or do I need Salesforce? Do I need to be paying $1,000 a month for this stuff? Okay, I need accounting, but do I need QuickBooks? I need to incorporate, but do I need to go to LegalZoom? Do I need to have an attorney? Like, there's just all of these kind of things that you go through as a business owner when you're getting up and running. But people like you and I have growth tactic, and we kind of have a tech stack that we use now, right? It's like, okay, we kind of use Google Sheets until we get to a certain level, and then we kind of professionalize it. So I think that there's an opportunity for someone to create a business in a box that says, basically, here are the tools that you need to get started, and then here are the integrations that you need to create. Go for people who are trying to do side hustles. So like accounting, bank accounts, finance, invoicing software, all of those things. Cool. Here's Stripe. Here's Google Sheets. Here's the Zapier API or integration that you need to have that's pulling from those things. Here's how you can set it up so you can look at metrics. Great. Operations. This is how you're tracking customers. You can't afford HubSpot, but set up your Google Sheets this way so that you're getting customer information like this. Inventory management. Okay, you're not ready for an inventory management system. This is how you should set up Google Sheets in order to get this stuff going. So, you're finally ready to incorporate. This is what you should do. Don't go to an attorney yet. Go to these websites, incorporate. This is how you start the bank account, etc. It's like very easy. Like anybody could create it using ChatGPT, but you would go and look at the things that typical businesses use and then create this business in a box, because entrepreneurship is only becoming more popular. People are only getting more and more interested in doing side hustles, but the headache of getting stuff cleaned up, of having clean books, of understanding where your metrics are, is just such a problem that you kind of have to figure it out yourself. It'd be nice to just have a plug and play system that says, you're getting started, use this.
What does it look like? Like, is it a website? Is it an app? Where is it hosted?
What I would do, so this is what I would go, it would be like a digital product that you could sell. And it would be a spreadsheet with a Google Doc. That's it. And so the Google Doc would sort of lay out, all right, here are the 5 areas of your business. Finance, and it would go through, all right, invoicing, accounting, revenue, right? And then there'd be links to, here are the spreadsheets that you should use, how to set them up. And then there would be operations. Cool. This is how you set up your internal CRM, right? And then links of how to set it up. So it would take a while to set up. Like, we'd have to actually go through it and create it. But once it was created, it would be a very cheap version of kind of setting up your back-end systems.
It's so funny you bring this up, because over the last week, I've had a very similar idea. I wasn't calling it this, and it doesn't look like that, but it achieves the same purpose and it solves the same problem.
Go on.
This is just really funny, because this is something else I've been excited about. Before I go there, so how is it customized to whatever niche or industry that person is doing? Or is it broad enough to where it applies to basically anyone?
I think you can upsell those things, right? Like if you were trying to make more money off of it, but it would just be broad. We would say that in the disclaimers, like, look, you're going to have to tailor this, but these are the systems that you could use. You're going to have to tailor anything. If you bought QuickBooks, you're going to have to tailor it. If you bought HubSpot, you're going to have to tailor it. If you bought Jobber, like any of these other systems, you're going to have to tailor it, right? So it'd be the same as any of those other systems.
It's funny because it reminds me of this. Who was it? Someone in my family, my aunt or something. She always says, well, I might have screwed up at raising my kids, but they don't make a book about this, like how to parent 101. It's kind of like that. It's like a business version of that, like how to business. Okay. Love it. Definitely solving a problem. Here's what I was thinking. The new year's coming. A lot of people are going to have a New Year's resolution to start a business, right? Or a side hustle, right? Mm-hmm. The problem that you outline absolutely exists. How to incorporate, where to incorporate, which one to choose. Do I even incorporate? Do I need a customer first? Do I need a business plan first? I hear Chris talks about this. Nick talks about this. Alex Hormozy talks about this. Like, what do I do? Where do I start? I thought about doing like an 8 to 12 week email-based cohort, like a course. Okay. But every Monday, that email is going to show up. And it's an email with instructions, like a to-do list, but it's also an accountability partner. And then on Sunday, you get another email for follow-up with a form to fill out saying like, here's what I did. I found my first customer this week. I got a logo this week. I got a website this week. And there is a cost to it. Let's say it's $200, $400 for the whole thing. It starts on January 1st. But every week you fill out the type form or whatever it is and say, I did all my steps. You get refunded a proportional amount. So by the end of it, if you do everything you're supposed to do, and that means you actually have a business with paying customers. And as a cherry on top, you didn't pay anything for any of that. You get a full refund. But statistically speaking, most people would not do most of it. They would flame out after a couple of weeks. So it could still be a profitable business while still earning the goodwill of doing it for free. Because if you do what you say you're going to do, it's free. If you don't, you pay.
So you know who Jason Calacanis is on?
Oh yeah,
So he has an accelerator incubator. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's Founder University. I think is the name of it, Founder University, and it costs money, but if you complete it, you get a full refund. Yeah, because his thing is like, hey, I want you to have skin in the game. It's kind of like that, right? But he's not really doing it to make money. He's trying to get people into his ecosystem, etc. Would you make money off of this, or are you just like, that would be a cool thing?
It would be a cool thing to do, and it would make money.
Yeah, because a certain percentage of them are not, and it's not all or nothing, right? You make it 50% of the way done, and that's interesting. What would you charge?
And I think people should be rewarded for doing some of it and not necessarily all of it. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I would think it would be in the hundreds.
I think that's a freaking great idea.
Yeah.
And for me, the business in a box thing would be probably building out some programmatic SEO around like, what should I use to, start my business?
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah. That's a great idea.
When should I incorporate like all those Google terms? And I'm sure that there are like other high ranking things, but it would just be, hey, here's like the $50 packet DIY, like do it yourself business in a box. And then it would just literally just be passive. You create it one time and it's just spitting out based on programmatic SEO.
This is just such a perfect example of how like the distribution idea can make the business idea 1,000 times better, because I think programmatic SEO would be just the most brilliant way to build that business because of all of the endless combinations of words and sentences. How do I incorporate my barber business, tree care business, HVAC business, plumbing business? Just for that one, just incorporate. You have thousands of landing pages, thousands of search terms that people are searching. Right. How do I find customers for my you have thousands of questions that people are searching for, and then thousands. So theoretically, you have millions of landing pages answering questions that people are asking that could all have a link to a paid product.
What's been really fun about the last 6 months is this was a whole world that I didn't know. And I'm still like way behind where you are, but it's fun to have these conversations now where I'm like somewhat understanding some of the distribution and growth hack portions of it. Cause then like I can actually add value. whereas before it was just like, oh, that sounds like a cool idea. But the distribution piece, like you said, is like so important to understand. Like okay, cool. Great idea. How are you going to get it out there?
Yeah. Oh man, that's really good. I like that a lot.
Oh, Chris. All right. You're up.
I want you to give me some ideas. I'm going to plant you with an idea, and I want you to give me some implementation ideas.
Hit me with your best shot.
So I found a website that's really, really interesting, and I want to monetize it somehow, but I'm coming up short.
Is it
Okay.
called Wikipedia?
No, it's called distill.io. And what Distill does, I'm going to pull it up. It notifies you if something on a website changes. Okay. Now, you can tell by the way they're pushing their website that most people use it for ticket sales. Okay. So as a family, we are going to the Alabama Auburn game at the end of the month, the Iron Bowl. And I'm cheap. I don't want to buy tickets when they're $200 each. I want to buy them when they're $100 each. But when are tickets the cheapest? Now, if it's a concert ticket, statistically speaking, you're better off waiting until the last minute. But with sports tickets, it can range. Like Auburn, if they're ranked in 2 weeks, they're going to be more expensive. If Alabama loses the next 2 weeks, they're going to be cheaper, right? You can't really know. You don't know when the best time is to buy them. And Ticketmaster and StubHub and all those guys, they don't really have services for this because that doesn't work to their incentivization. They want you to buy right now. And that's why they're always going to tell you going fast, price will be higher tomorrow, right? And so you can use distill.io to be notified when a ticket price drops for any event, for any section, for any seat. Super cool. It's a little unintuitive to use. Like it's kind of tricky to use, but I think there's a world where you could build a SaaS on top of this, where you could just build like a ticket notification system that's built on top of distill.io. And it's stupid simple, easy to use. Maybe it only works on Ticketmaster, or only works on StubHub. It's $10 a year or something cheap. Have you heard of Scott's Cheap Flights?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that. It's like $70 a year. And it's kind of an insurance policy. You're like, I don't know how many times I'm going to travel this year, but if I get an email and it says the flights to Hawaii are $300 right now, we're going to go to Hawaii. And I'm going to pay $70 a year just for the opportunity to save, $1,000 on tickets. It could be something like that, like tens of dollars a year for a service. But more broadly speaking, how could you use this to make money?
Who's using distill.io right now? Like who are they have to be a company, right? Yeah, I'm sure that they have like a target demographic or a target.
That's
customer.
what I was saying is like the messaging on their website is like towards the ticketing websites.
Take ticketing out of it. Why would I care if a website updated? Here's the problem. If I cared enough for a website, like an update on a website changing, I'm probably going to be on their emails list. I'm probably going to already be in them. Like, let's say it's a food product that just dropped, or it's a new blog article that Chris posts, right? Like I'm going to be on his email, on his email list. So it has to be something where you're interested enough to want to know about it, but not so interested, or there's not a mechanism to update people via a newsletter.
Yeah. I'll give you some ideas. So let's say it's a Shopify site.
Cliffhanger. What happened? Where does the idea finish? Next week, Chris and I finish up that idea. We end up landing on a spot that we're both actually really excited about. I then share another idea about a CPA practice. Chris shares a handyman idea. And then at the end of the episode, we do a marry, date, or kill for the ideas that we discussed this week and next week. We did kind of a combined episode, just trying something out. So don't miss next week. Like and subscribe. And with that, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.